At MHDP, models are a really core part of what we do to create and develop the designs we're working on and to communicate our designs. We will explore a vast range of the models we've done over the last 30 years, particularly as I've now got to throw some of them out. We're running out of space to store them all. It's just nice to go back and look at the ideas that are embodied in those models. Spray adhesive it, stick it on a piece of foam core and start blocking it up so you're reading the plans in 3 dimensions and you're starting to see in 3 dimensions how the building's developed. And I think it's empowering how quickly that makes you see and look at the building, not just in plan form or in section form. It's just multi-dimensional and it allows you to look through, see and explore. So this is parts of a model that we've explored the space planning inside, we've explored the elevation treatment on the outside of it. And these are particularly valuable to share with the client because straight away they can look through it, see it, be it, hold it. Very, very interesting way of looking at an engaging way of being involved in the model. You can take the model making further and explore it. So again, developed up. This is a design model. It became almost a presentation model of our development in Narrabeen called Zinc. And this model pretty much replicates the massing, the stepping and the articulation of the building in real detail, as well as internally representing and feeling the spaces inside the building. Very powerful in terms of expressing and looking at how you want the materials to finish. Photographing this and sketching over it allows you to really look at every essence and detail of part of the building and developing the detail. And then you can go further and into actually some of our building details are actually then developed in model form. This is a large scale model of a balustrade development for a driveway at our project in Avalon. And this was a really interesting thing in that we had a multi two-way curved driveway and the cost of the handrail to put up this thing that was bent in 2 directions turned out to be incredibly expensive. So coming up with an idea and a detail that could be absolutely replicated, each of these things was absolutely identical, yet coped with a 2-way curve, was just a real breakthrough moment. And it was done by mucking around with bits of foam core and a model and achieved not only something that's graphically stunningly beautiful, but also incredibly cost effective, both in its manufacture and particularly in its installation. So model making right from the start of the building to developing how it should look, feel, mass and be, right to how it's detailed and finished. It's such an integral part of really making buildings and making them work well. This is a house in Sunrise Road in Palm Beach. Very fond of this project. It was a difficult project and complex site. The interesting thing about this house, it was built by an old engineer. Very, very utilitarian house, but very solidly built. Our client had quite a different vision for what this house should be, but we could see it was in the house. So I was very proud of this. We managed to deliver a really complex brief inside everything that was there, and we left all that embodied energy in this house and created a house that really framed and worked the views. Particularly brilliant house, long driveway, really amazing arrival down to this house, great sense of arrival and into this theatrical space that just threw you out into the Pacific Ocean. This is a house on Newport headland. This was a fantastic opportunity for me and for the office because this was one of the first times that a client turned up wanting to work with us to develop the style of house that was in line with what we wanted to be working on. Awesome site on top of the cliff looking down over Newport Reef. And in this, we got to explore a number of really forward-thinking ideas about how you should be building in that environment. For example, unlike most of its neighbours, there's no decks along the front of this house. All the decks are in behind and protected from the nor'easterly, so they're actually usable spaces. The house is set over 3 levels, very much built in a split family, which became one of our classic ways of building houses for families, where there's a parents' retreat, a living level, and the children's area. Partly very much driven by the brief for this family, that's become one of the forms of our houses which has gone on to become very popular and very successful. These are the sorts of houses that people walk into and go, I want to live in them, because they have all the spaces that you require to bring a family up and inspire them to live well within a house. This is our Pulpit Point house in Hunters Hill. They really wanted to maximise the opportunity of the view out from this house to Gladesville Bridge. We didn't want a rendered house because everyone was rendering houses. So it was a very rare house in the late 90s in that we did it entirely in face brick. And we used very deep sills and settings and things, so that it had a very traditional form, particularly a western facing house that allowed the shade from the sun and also really articulated the building form and broke up what was quite a massive and large house. It sits well on the top of the headland there. They held this house for over a decade, and when they sold it, this set a record for Wyballina Road. This is a waterfront house in Double Bay. It was originally two houses built by Henry Pollack of Mirvac. The two houses had one connection point and multiple floor levels. Our job was to tie that back together and make one grand waterfront home. The original house was very internalised and the external experience was virtually non-existent. So the whole of the ground floor opened up and the first floor opened onto terraces. Epic view out across the harbour to Taronga Zoo. It's just nice to go back and look at the ideas that are embodied in those models and how we created them, and they became part of our whole collection of ideas and things that become the body of our work in our office.